This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. As many times that we will hire someone to make life easier, a lot of times we might sit with that and say, well, you know, I could probably do that myself. I ask, well, can you? Can you do it efficiently? Can you save time hiring somebody? The end result, will it save you even money? Today, we're talking about hiring an interior designer. Why should you? We're going to talk about that today. And she has given so many tips and advice along the way in the last few weeks. So we've got her back in here. And also know your listener questions too, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. Diane Rosen is on the program. Welcome back. How are you doing?
I am doing terrific. Terrific today.
So I'm going to personally answer that question. Why hire a designer? My answer would be to prevent an ulcer. I shared this with you before. It was about, 9 years ago. I renovated an entire backyard. I got bits and pieces of information from different contractors, managed the project, working multiple jobs. Kids were younger, on and on and on. I'm not exaggerating. I gave myself an ulcer and drove myself to the hospital because I didn't know what it was. Oh, I'm being very serious. So when I have to answer that question, that's my answer. Like, I'll never do that again. And I rarely say never, because never say never. There's one. Like, I will get professional help with that kind of stuff. And what did I say? At that moment, I could probably handle that. It'll be a little extra work. In the end, it wasn't worth it. So that's my answer. What do you tell people when it comes to hiring an interior designer? Why should we do it?
Look, start with a good conversation. Excuse me. Let that go.
You're getting hired.
It could be. But anyway, I always, generally people ask, ever walk into a room in your home and you don't quite know why it doesn't feel good or something's off when you walk in? And maybe you need just a little direction, maybe color for the room, favorite picture, figure, I can take care of that. Well, what I do is have a good conversation, start with a consultation, and see what it is that you want to change. Do a good time, takes a good amount of time, really, to find out, what is not making you feel good in this room? And if you're wanting, well, maybe I don't like the wall, the color, the paint. What should I start with? Well, then I backtrack and say, is there anything in here that you absolutely want to keep? It could be a table, it could be a photo, it could be whatever, the rug, whatever you're thinking. But taking it from that position, how do you want to use the room? And in working through with that, let's start with, maybe the setup of where the sofa and the chairs are. Where's the TV going to be? Let's do a draft, a drawing, a diagram to see what, before we select anything, let's just see which way it will work best for you. So in making placement of furniture and putting together what you want surrounding you, we can get to that. But let's anchor where you want to be first. And from that position, we can really get you going. The type of sofa, the type of chair, how many kids do you have? Do you have any, physical handicaps that we have to attend? And let's function. Let's make it fun. And the keystone is I do all the research for you, show you what can be done, and then we take it from there.
I would imagine that many times when you work with somebody, they don't really know what they want. They think they do, but do you present things to them and then they realize, I never even thought of that. I didn't think of that. Does that come up a lot?
Yes, it does. And if working with a client, after the initial conversation, it's, well, I always hated that table, or I want to change this up. I will take them to make a time and take them to one of our good design showrooms. And after we've kind of I focused on what we want to look at first, just to sit down and see what feels good. And when you are in the process of, it can get overwhelming really, really quickly. But we start with your plan. And the plan is with a draft, a drawing. So we have a feeling of where you want to go with this. Going to the showroom gives you the opportunity to test drive furniture, tables, lamps, and colors. But we take it step by step, so it's not so overwhelming, because it can become overwhelming rather quickly.
And the things that we don't realize, let's say, yeah, hey, Diane, as part of my plan to redo this room, I'm going to change the furniture. Couch is a little outdated. It's got some wear on it, so I'm in another one. And in my mind, I'm going to put it up against the wall because that's what I'm used to. And I'm going to measure for that. You may come in and say, hey, have you ever thought about maybe putting that couch in the middle of the room, but turning it in a certain way? That's going to change the dimensions of the couch. I may say, I didn't even realize that. But if I already bought the couch intending to put it against the wall, which so many of us do, you might be missing an opportunity, but now you've already committed to buying that couch for that purpose in terms of the dimension. In other words, we're not seeing what you're seeing because we're not trained to do that.
Right. It's a step-by-step process. And if you've gone ahead and bought the sofa, well, we can work around with that. Sure. And then it's, very often people want to paint. I hold off. Paint is probably the last thing before everything gets delivered, you want to paint, but that would be one of your last selections to make. Why? Because your color choices, you've established your colors, and we want that to harmonize. So in the process of making it a comfortable, easy walk-in room, it's piece by piece, section by section, and it all gets taken care of.
Now, when you say the paint should be last, is it because you have almost unlimited choices in the wall color, but when it comes to the furniture and some of the other things, there's some limitations. So you can tie it all together. Once you figure that out, then get your paint color on the wall.
Right. Right. So, there is a program. There is a step-by-step that very often people get too focused on one thing and can't get past it. Or if there's something that they really like, but this is not going to work in the room. Just another tip, really, that I've used repeatedly is our photos, family photos, or even a painting that you like, but you've changed from very traditional and now going into contemporary or maybe a more modernistic feel. Keep the painting, change the frame. You can really get a lot of mileage out of that. That doesn't mean you have to throw everything out, but the pieces that you really, really enjoy, let's remat it.
You know what's so interesting? You're saying this. I have an office. I moved 3 years ago, home office, and I never really finished that room. I put a couple of things on the wall, but I never really dug into it until recently. And I have some framed art. I'm into back in the day, wanted to be a syndicated cartoonist, so I got original art from other cartoonists. I just love it. I love looking at it, how they did it. Even now, I don't draw anymore. I don't have time for that, but I love looking at it, when I pass by that wall. Well, these were framed like 30 years ago, somewhere around there, 30 years ago. And I pulled them out recently. I'm like, let me put them up on a wall. And I look at the frames, professionally framed, right? I look, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? Why did I pick that frame color? Like, that's an odd color. I'm going to work with it, but things change. That was then, this is now. doesn't really fit what I got going on now. So, I'll find a way to change it. But things change, and
Yeah,
just as you said, you can change the frame and get a totally different look from it.
absolutely.
Mm,
And it's, not that professional framing can get expensive depending on how big and
sure.
stylized and so forth you want, but it adds so much.
Yeah.
But the whole focus of this morning is that you've got to have a plan.
Mm,
You have to start with a plan, and in that plan, decide what you like, what you don't like anymore, what's obvious. You want to get rid of the sofa, the kids, and the dog, and everything else have chewed it to death. But that's just kind of repeating. Let's see how else where we can place it. How are we going to use the room? Let's open it up. So, in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people ask too, can I buy online? And I said, sure, you know what you're buying. If it's furniture, I have a strong hesitation. Only if you truly know what you're buying. But different pieces, as long as the size is right, the look is where you're going. It's a very common topic that a lot of clients bring up. What if I get this? What if I get that? Selections are everything, and I limit that. I
mm.
also say if you're going to
Oh,
buy it online, you're going to be responsible for it too.
it's like you're reading my mind, Diane, because I was just thinking, if you're doing this yourself, it's almost like you have fatigue of making decisions. They call it decision fatigue, where it's like, all right, well, I got to do this, but what if I do that? And I'm not really sure about that. I would imagine that you narrow down the choices based on
Absolutely.
what we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Your choice. It's always your final decision, but the
sure.
selections are within that mindset
Yep.
of what you're thinking. And I always usually really just give you three selections. Any one of them would work, but which one that we've already discussed do you like the best?
Mm.
So it is a question of, it's always your thought because it's your vision and your home. My job really is to be your guide. And my job is also to show you what else is out there that can add to whatever, we need to move forward with. So picking up on bits and pieces can get very frustrating if you're doing it on your own.
So, what are some of the other things? What else would you tell somebody? If they said, "Well, you know what? Should I hire a interior designer?" What would you say?
I kind of repeating myself, but you're starting with a conversation so you understand and develop a plan.
Mm,
And from the plan, you figure out if you have any pets, too many, how many children, um, do you need any accessible and support systems as you're going through all this? Uh, Let me know how you guys live. Let me know. Let's take it from there and then see what you like. And
mm.
it's always your choice, your final decision. But that's where I come in and really take the headache out of the way of multiple choices, especially with tiles and down to the grout. So everything is in sync.
So, when you're working with somebody and there's a little bit more involved, let's say we're gonna maybe take down a wall, make a little bit of a structural change. Would you connect with contractors?
Absolutely.
Mm. So
Yes.
I have to imagine too. You'd be like the translator because the average homeowner doesn't talk contractor. Like they just
Right.
I want that wall taken down. Well, there's more involved in that and everything. You'd be the liaison.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm the guy that or the lady that goes between making the conversation so we're all on the same page. And when it comes to knocking down a wall or building a wall, extending a wall, I've done all the above. Um, you need my team, my contractors are very specific in what they can do. And we pull the best carpenters, we pull the best electricians and the plumbers and what is needed in, just because you're knocking down a wall, there's all kinds of detail to that. And especially how old is the house and what framework are we dealing with? Multiple times, sometimes I call in my civil engineer because everything is to code. The good news today is code, and depending on your municipality, has really raised the bar. So things are, when they are done, and you want the contractor who is the expert in this field, so he knows exactly for your situation what needs to be done.
I would imagine too, it's with an eye on resale, that if that's, an eventual goal, but you're going to help somebody get the best in the market. What's your recommendation, Diane, when somebody's making decisions? So, for example, maybe they pick a certain color, or they're going to paint their kitchen cabinets. How do you decide resale value? Is there a certain year span? Like if you say, to your client, are you planning to sell this home within the next 3 to 5 years, or would it be after that? Would that make a difference in terms of the cabinets? Like for example, and I don't know the number, but let's say they're not looking to sell within 5 years, but they really want this teal blue color on their cabinets. Not everybody's going to like that, but for resale might not be the best thing. How do you make that division there to know what you should do?
I offer the options. If indeed you're planning to sell within 3 to 5 years and you want teal and you're adamant about it, go ahead. But you have to understand that it's not the most common selection. However, if with the teal cabinets and you've got everything else, the floor, the appliances, I'm probably talking about a kitchen and or a bathroom, it can be stunning and creative in its own right. So it's a personal choice. I will recommend to you, if this is something that you're in between with, let's go pretty classic, or what is currently up to date. And in the world of color, what gets decided by Color Marketing Group and Pantone, there's always a new quote color every year for Pantone, but Color Marketing Group, its span is approximately 10 years. So the possibility or the projection of, what you're wanting and what you wind up with, it's got to be comfortable for you first.
Gotcha.
Just so you're aware of what the back side could be. But taking care of all the details is my job.
This is now personal experience where I moved in to a new place a few years ago. This is my lesson, and this is another reason why I believe you should hire an interior designer. Material knowledge. I bought a couch, some pieces. It was fair price. It wasn't the most expensive I've ever spent. I thought it'd be all right. It's been 3 years. I don't use the couch a lot. I'm seeing wear already. So I got to imagine when you hire a designer, they're going to know what fabrics, finishes, whatever that is going to be the most durable for maybe a high traffic area, kids, pets, and all of that. What do you think?
Absolutely. That's why you call me. That's why you want to talk to me.
I should have, because I would have saved some money, because I'm looking at my couches now. And pets. I've shared with you, I have 2 cats. Love them. They're fantastic. I didn't even, you know what? I didn't have them when I bought the furniture. So I wasn't even thinking about cats and claws and the fabric. This was probably the worst fabric I could have picked for cats. The worst. But I didn't even think of it. You would. And that's not to say that you're going to have the end all. Steve, your cats will buy this fabric, this couch. Your cats will never be able to get their claws into it. That's just not realistic. But to minimize the damage, in terms of the weave and all that. I didn't even
Well,
think of that.
yeah, you take that into consideration when you're working on fabric. We're
Yeah.
talking kids, cats, assorted husbands, that sort of thing,
Mm,
and how the daily use is going to be. But you want to be able to make it sustainable, last more than 3 years, 5 years, should last
yeah.
as long as you want it. So
Mm,
that consideration and working with someone such as myself, we show the selections of what will be appropriate for that room, for how you're going to use it. And most often, a sofa could last. I have one that's 30 years old. Shouldn't say that, dates me terribly.
Well, I
But
got you. I had it in my previous home, and I got rid of this couch 3 years ago to get this other one. I bought that. So what did I get rid of it? 22. I bought that in 2003. And let me tell you, I paid more for it, but boy, did it last.
mhm,
Like through kids, through pets. The only thing I did with that couch was some of the springs on the main
worn
sofa.
out.
Yeah. So instead of replacing that in the cost, don't make fun of me. Put some plywood underneath the cushions.
Sure.
Nobody knew.
You
But
get
look at
creative.
how old it was. It's only
Yeah.
like 15 years old,
Yeah.
and it worked.
And
Got an email. Let's go. Let's go here. This is Amanda from Seattle. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. She checks in. She says, we have a small 12 by 14 living room with one window and dark floors. What layout and color choices would make it feel brighter and more spacious without replacing the flooring? So it's 12 by 14, dark floors, one window. What can we do?
first question, how big is the window?
Okay. Don't have that answer, but
Yeah, but
mm,
because that's critical. If it is a standard window or
mm,
is it a a built out,
yeah,
bay
yeah,
window kind of thing,
mm,
make a huge difference so you can get some natural daylight in.
yeah,
But colors are just to parallel what you want. Uh, your, how you're going to use the room. Is it going to be your TV room or a study? So lighting, I would think you want to bounce off that floor. Dark, when you say dark floor, is it like a dark oak? This is where things get, need to be defined. Let's put it that way. But okay, it's a dark floor. Bounce it off with a soft neutral. A neutral being anything from uh, kind of a mushroomy cream to a very soft. What's your favorite color?
mm,
We're not going to put, purple and polka dots on it, but we want to be able to bounce off the floor and have the walls um, connect, collaborate. So, whatever color it is, make it a softer version of it.
you great question to bring up because they don't go into that detail, understandably, because we're
Uh-huh.
going.
Yeah.
That's why you would talk to
Yeah.
the designer. But
Yeah.
this could be a basement apartment. What do we know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that window could be really small.
Little. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
in that case, if it's a small window, lighting is huge. You really not want to work on, and again, I'll go through the parameters of how are you going to use the room? How many people will? Do you have children? Do you have pets? How's that going to be arranged? But if it's a small window, like a basement,
Hmm.
you want lighting, and you would probably want very subtle ceiling capped lighting. Not a lot, but just enough to focus where you're working. Um, I don't like a lot of ceiling lighting. Most of it, the 6 inches are so
Hmm.
too big, and quite frankly, they're ugly. There's a lot of needed in commercial, so I would never discount that. But if it's a small window, you need to work on the lighting and the color of the walls. If it's a bigger window and you got some good natural lighting, maybe a 6 or an 8 foot window, you can bounce that off too. You still might want to do some ceiling lighting, but just do the 2 inchers. Do something subtle. Do something on a smaller scale.
And I'm right there with you with the in ceiling hi hats. It was such a thing years ago, even going back to the late '90s, mid '90s, where it got very popular. The start where it's like, wow, yeah, look at you, you've got those lights up there, wow, haha. Now it's like, yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
It's funny how times change. Sophie Portland checks in. She says, in an open concept living and dining area, how do I define each zone while keeping everything cohesive? Now, again, you
Rugs.
don't have the particulars here. I understand that.
No. A lot of times, a floor rug. Are you on carpet or are you on a solid, like a wood floor? But in either case, you can define it with a floor rug, the size of which would be determined to how big each room is. But as we walk into a room, we are defined by the corners, really, of it. So you can have a living area with a rug underneath and your table on top and so on. But big and not little, but a fairly good one that I tell people this all the time when they want to put a rug under a dining table.
Mhm.
Make sure you have enough room, because when you pull the chair out, you really want to have the rug big enough. People need 2 feet usually to get into a table and then scooch back in, so that it is on the chair is still on the rug. So the other area, in dining and whatever, you can do. Sometimes I do runners, but psychologically, we all kind of follow the path. Hopefully that makes sense.
And I guess it's also the furniture placement, like we talked about before. So many of us
Yes.
throw the furniture up against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we do that because we want to maximize space. Put it over there, but that's not really the best. You could probably gain more space, or the illusion of more space, by moving that couch out, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
even make that your divider. Maybe in this situation,
It can be, and you can do a banquet type console. It depends on the room. There's so many open-ended questions here.
yeah.
But if you think of it as separating it into 2 spots, the easiest I think, is to put a floor rug down to define where the dining table part is, dining and chairs. And then the other half of the room can be in a different shape, size, cut of rug. And where are you going to put your sofa chairs and so on? So it sounds like you got a pretty good size room, but it's all about the detail.
Yep. And we're right. And by the way, everybody, reach out to her if you want to go deeper into this, because we don't have the details.
Yeah.
Annika in Raleigh, North Carolina, says, I'm looking to refresh my living room. How can I mix patterns and pillows and rugs without the room feeling busy?
You want to revamp it.
Is there a rule of thumb when it comes to patterns? I'll wear a
point.
suit, and I last night I went to an event, and I didn't wear a white shirt. I had a patterned shirt. It was square patterns, very, not crazy, not too loud. There was some white in there too, but my jacket had checks on it too, very, subdued. But I wear them together. Pocket square could be totally different design. It looks okay. I think it looks good. I don't know if that translates to a living room though.
We kind of does, in a way. I
Okay.
was trying to segue into
Or
that.
maybe I looked like a complete moron last night. I don't know.
I think if you're wanting, pillows are a great splash, and you just want to pick up on the color of the sofa. You can, and it depends. Again, it's all about the detail. What do you got? What do you have? How's the sofa? Is the sofa a solid color? Well, you can put all, and you love pattern and color and presentation. Well, you can do that, but try to get fabric for your pillows that also include color of the sofa. Just, and that doesn't have to be a constant, but just punch into it. So, example, mixing flowers with stripes, that kind of thing. Again, it can be done. It's all about the coordination. It is all about the coordination of color, and how big of a space have you got again? So, if you have a solid sofa, and say the sofa is gray, you're open-ended to a lot of fun. You can put in red flowers, and different yellows and different things. You got a pillow that's 18 by 18, if that's going to be your showstopper. But you also want to include for the next pillow to have some of that gray in there, and you can make it more open-ended, not tight patterned. Yeah.
Would you say, if you're redoing things, to stick to a more neutral colored couch or the main pieces, to leave it open for you to kind of mess around when it comes to things around it?
Absolutely.
Pillow, rugs, things like that.
Yeah. A solid, well, usually the sofa is the largest piece in the room. It used to be, but now the TVs are the largest piece in the room. But there's your palette. Whatever your sofa color is, it could be dark green, it could be off-white, it could be whatever your favorite color is. And then as you want to play with pillows, it's style and color, because now you're open-ended. It's whatever, again, it's, you don't want to mix too much wild color, but play off of the sofa, have a punch of that color of the sofa in those pillows, if you can make it. Like, if you like a lot of colored presentation on one pillow, daisies and flowers and greens and stuff, make the next pillow solid.
What would you do if somebody had a large room and high ceilings? How would you make it feel cozy instead of, cold and echoey and, disconnected?
Your main conversation area needs to be, well, if in a pictured world, this needs to be in the center or central of the room. Usually in one of these very large high ceiling homes, there's a fireplace.
Oh, okay.
And let's just say if there is a fireplace, you want your conversation area, sofa, chairs, and so forth, fairly, 3 feet away from all of that action. And usually you have a solid wood floor, lots of window, so you've got some great natural light, but you want to have an area rug that can really hug it. And the area rug, there's several ways to play the area rug, but when you have a really big room with a really high ceiling, you want to make it more cozy. You want your furniture to sit on the rug, on the floor rug. So it can be 12, I've done them 12 by 18, depending on how much room you've got. But your sofa, your center coffee table or end table kind of thing, and a couple of chairs could sit on, and you're drawn to that. And that's a comfort level.
There's so many variables here, and we're answering, and thank you everybody for reaching in. But this is one area where it's not cut and dry. There's other, even with that, I went hypothetical there with a large room, high ceilings. There's much to talk about. I mean, I would even imagine too, depending on the ceiling and the structure, like you could even bring down lights low that,
Absolutely.
on a
Depending,
long pole, or
depending.
yeah, bring them on down
Mhm.
to make the ceiling feel lower so it's a little more cozy. But
Mhm.
we don't know what the ceiling looks like.
If
No
it's
idea.
just a big flat ceiling, or usually they're pyramid,
Right.
cathedral type.
You just brought back a memory to that house that I sold a couple of years ago. There was call it a living area, dining room area, and kitchen, all open concept. But over the living area and part of the dining area, the ceiling was very high and it was echoey, even to the point where I bought surround sound, I put in speakers, I would take them back. You couldn't even listen to TV because of at least me, echo. Like it was hard to even focus
Yeah.
on it. And then certainly for conversation, station.
Yeah.
What could you do in that scenario? I don't know if there's anything you could do. Obviously, carpeting to deaden the sound. But on a high ceiling situation with noise, is there any potential fix for that?
Yeah. There you can do acoustic panels that can be decorative. I've done this in
Hmm.
couple of restaurants, but for your own home, the good news is today, because of the noise, there's a variety of acoustic panels that can meld comfortably onto that ceiling
Hmm.
and can have patterns on it, look carved. It can be flat. It can be whatever your style happens to be going on in there, um, just to deaden the sound. That's why, when you go into, I pick on like a restaurant, and there's some restaurants that you can't even hear yourself think. It's just too loud. Others you love because you can talk to someone without constant um, noise, being surrounded by noise. And it's what they've got. Hard surfaces will bounce off each other. Hard surfaces off the floor, off the wall, off the ceiling, the windows. So when you add wood, or you have there's all kinds of things you can do. But acoustic, I say the term generically acoustic panels, but they work because they're multiple size, variety, color,
Hmm.
pattern. Really can help you out quite a bit.
Hmm. Taylor, we're from Salt Lake City, says if someone feels overwhelmed and doesn't know their design style, what steps should they take to figure it out?
Well, back in the day, I'd say go through some magazines today, and it could be anything. I like that lamp. I like that chair. I like that table. Pinterest is always a good resource. Um, Going, of course, to a showroom where there's multiple, endless variety, and not to get overwhelmed about it, but a good discussion of what's your favorite thing. I always go back to that because it's really all about you. This is one area where it truly is all about you and your
Right,
home.
right.
And you want to walk into the room and feel good and feel comfortable. So go. I use online. You can spend a lot of time. Oh, I really like that lamp. I really like that chair. And then you're creating a style. Show it to me, and let's develop that. It could be very traditional. It could be French country. It could be very modern. What makes you feel good about it?
Hmm.
So that's a starting point.
Um, you have a challenge there because you need to figure out what their style is. You have to meet them at that point, or maybe they're not 100% sure. Show them other options that might fit what their style is. Then you need to walk them through the process, give them choices. You got a lot going on there.
Uh-huh.
But the end result, I have to imagine, is as a place that is well done, just looks like it belongs, like magazine ready,
Right.
saving them money, saving them stress, anxiety, ulcer, and all of that.
Mhm.
Can you tell us? We never really got into the process. Somebody reaches out to you. Taylor reaches out and says, "Hey, you know what? Um, I want to work with you. How does it start? What are the steps?"
Starts with a conversation,
Hmm.
consultation. Yes, I do charge for my time. And in the process, the very thing we just discussed. I actually had a client when I went to visit and see her for the first time, and I looked around and asked some general questions. And then I said, "What do you like about this room?" She says, "Nothing. I want to start all over," which was exciting to me. But I said, "Okay, if is there anything in this room you really, really like?" She goes, "No, I just want it to look pretty." And that's a quote.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna just the voices are talking in my head.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a trap because if they
Uh-huh.
they're saying I want to redo everything we do, they have things that they like,
Yes.
right? We all
Yes.
do. We all do.
So I backtrack and I go, "Okay, it'll look pretty, but you've got to help me out here."
Yeah.
And so we started from that position of she really liked an antique table, N type table. And I said, "We can keep that and let's take it from there." And she was, pretty open ended on a lot of things. That's where we make a time. I take her to a showroom. We have two great showrooms in our my St. Louis area. So, and we just walk through it. And I said, in the meantime, I said, there's so much online. You can't guarantee the color, you can't guarantee a lot,
Mm,
but do you like what you see? Print it out. Let's start with a plan. And that sometimes takes is there's the investment, because you always discuss too. hmm, I never say how much, how much is this. Nobody really know. Nobody buys furniture every day, and so it is a open-ended thought. But what if you, whatever you have, say, "Oh, I have X amount of dollars." Okay, I'll give you a general statement of what you can get for X amount of dollars. And if that will suffice for you, very often, but I show within that budget, within that frame, this is what we can build. This is what we can grow on.
mm,
And it's a very comfortable way to present, because the client is just as comfortable as I am. I'm not trying to push anything beyond what they're not comfortable spending. But if you only have X amount of dollars, let's do this in chunks. And I've done that very often. Doesn't mean you can do everything right now, but let's get the main pieces set. If it's a living room area, let's get the main pieces. And then maybe in 3 months or 6 months, when it's more comfortable for you, we can finish up with this, that, and the other that we talked with. So there's no pressure. I try to take the pressure away.
would you say in a lot of ways you are the mirror? You hold the mirror up to us when it comes to our design choices so
Uh-huh.
that we see them, we understand them, and you give us that clarity. Because a lot of us might not even see the vision. We don't know. Like,
Right.
how often do we go furniture shopping? A few times in our lifetime, right?
Correct. Right. Absolutely. But you want to walk in the room, as we've discussed before, and you want to feel good.
Mm,
You want to relax and say, "This is the place I can kick off my shoes. If I take a nap on the sofa, it's all good." And that's how it's kind of been my theory or my process of trying to work with the individual, but offer what's out there. you need to see this, or have you tried that? Or, if you're having a hard time getting to up the stairs or down the stairs, let's figure out how to make that better.
What if somebody, we talked about certain colors and how they might not support resale down the road. Let's
Right.
say you have a backsplash in your home at bold teal. That's the backsplash. Maybe you just bought the house and that's what you inherited.
Uh-huh.
What can you do around that to temper that down? Let's say you're not the biggest fan of it. You want to keep your costs down. Certainly, I guess you could rip it all out and redo it. What could be done with something in that situation?
Are we talking about the bathroom,
Kitchen.
the kitchen, and the backsplash? Um,
Big, bold, it's teal, it's
we need to calm it down. So really, what a compliment. What can we do?
oh, what if it's the floor tiles? Let's even go there. So now you're going to be some big expense there. Bold turquoise, call it that. You don't love it. Is there anything you can do with the cabinet colors, the decor, like you said, to
Sure.
tone it down without doing like a full remodel?
Sure. Yeah, bounce off of that. And you can paint a cabinetry
Mm.
and have it effective. I've done that multiple times. Kind of for that very reason. If you can and you really hate it, get rid of the floor. But if you're kind of stuck with a teal floor, um, I suggest, depending what the cabinetry is, if it's dated, if it's golden oak and just doesn't jive, you can paint the cabinets, and you'll probably want to rework the countertop to balance that off as well.
Mm. Mm.
Now, that of course grows into, let's update the sink. Let's see what shape the fridge is. Is it a double oven or what that situation may be? So everything now, the floor is just the floor. It's still teal, but uh, my cabinet doors and cabinetry have been painted, and you can do it in a soft enamel, and you can do it so that's almost indestructible. There's some terrific product out there anyway, and you can bounce that off of that. You'd probably 9 out of 10 want to change the countertop and
Mm.
balance that off, and then of course it extends to your sink, your fridge, and any other and lighting too.
Mm. There's a point there too. Um, there's so much you can do with lighting. Oh my gosh. Like you could go, we could go on forever talking about it. Any thoughts
Uh-huh.
about that? Any final thoughts here about uh, accent lighting? Well, we talked about the hi-hats, how you might want to
Yeah.
get away from that because it's kind of harsh. But any thoughts, like initial, anything about lighting that pops in your head?
Lighting is crucial and so well needed, so needed, and so out of whack in so many places. Um, Again, it has to accommodate what you want to do. And most of the time, and the beauty of today with LED is the amount of choice you have to tone it down. And of course, you can raise and lower and have the dimmer
Hmm.
adjust to what you need. But lighting is not only crucial, it's complementary and comforting.
Could you, if you had hi-hats, you inherited hi-hats, you got them there. Could you add some accent lighting to that to, change that up so you don't have to rely on that harsh lighting up there?
I'm sorry, I've had to.
No, no worries. Let's say you inherited hi-hats.
Hi hats. Uh-huh.
What can you do to
Oh yeah.
change up the lighting so that it's not so harsh, or maybe some accent lighting around it?
You can literally put in a smaller unit with no problem. I've
Wow.
done it multiple times.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they almost look like they disappear. I'm just going for 2 inches at the biggest 3 inch round diameter, and have a dimmer switch. But it's location of where you park the spot in the ceiling if you're going to do that. You never want it right on top of your head.
That's just it. Like, I just laughed because everybody loved hi-hats back in the day. It was almost like a sign of
yeah, you're in.
opulence. Like, oh wow, you let's say you do a remodel, and that would be the first thing you would tell the carpenter. Yeah, they're doing hi-hats up here with the electrician and everything. It's going to be great. Now, you need a dimmer. Like, it is just so
Too much.
Yeah, too much. And I would imagine too, they probably have things you can screw in to get rid of the hi-hat that can hang lower. Lower hanging light.
Yes. You once again, and this is important too, with lighting or plumbing or any of the structural issues, you want somebody who knows what they're doing. Don't pretend. If you don't know how to do, if you're perfect, if you're comfortable with doing things on your own, congratulations. That's good. But you don't want to, because of cost, and it's not inexpensive anymore, any of them, you want to get it done right the first time. So you want a quality carpenter, electrician, plumber, floor guy, and painter. It's done, and you've got all the warranties.
And that too. And sometimes it's worth even paying. I helped a friend, and I'm handy here and there. I love, electronics. So I'm like, oh yeah, you got hi-hats out? Yeah, I'll help you out with that. I'll replace the LEDs or whatever it was. To my surprise, it wasn't the LEDs, the bulb, the fixture.
Yeah.
It was the transformer.
Uh-huh.
So add 20 minutes per hi-hat, because I had to go up there, unscrew the transformer, literally shut off the power, because now I have to go inside the box, replace the box, put the wires back in, all of it. It was like 20 minutes per hi-hat. Probably should have called an electrician because I wanted to help.
Yeah, which is awesome, and I'm glad you could. But at the same time, you want to be able to be the most efficient and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And this stuff is changing constantly.
Really?
And you can do all your lighting, all of the lights in the room on the wall. You can have it as a smart fixture, and with your dimmers and all that stuff, which in many cases is a pretty good idea.
What's the best way to contact you, Diane?
Through my website, which is DianeRosenInteriors.com.
And just simple, start with the conversation. I'm sure you got a contact on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We covered a lot today. We're like the cars reaching down the road to the left, to the right, but great. And thank you everyone for your input. Anytime you get a question, we're here. Love to entertain them. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Thank you so much for today, Diane. I really appreciate it.
Well, it was very good to work with you.
You too.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.